Number 6 Penn State destroying number 11 SMU 38-10, and Penn State now moving on to play number 3 Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl. Let's go over the highest graded players, starting off with the Penn State Nittany Lions. Linebacker Tony Rojas had a massive pick 6 in this game. He finished with an 83.1 grade. Another guy had a pick 6. Dominic DeLuca, another linebacker, 79.9. Abdul Carter, 77.9. The edge defender, running back Katron Allen, 74.1. Another linebacker, Kobe King, 71.9. Drew Aller, not his best game, obviously, 56.3 grade, but also Penn State didn't really need his best game out there. So we'll see what happens next week. But let's go over to SMU with their highest graded players in their loss. Linebacker Ahmad Walker, 83.3. Brandon Crossley, the cornerback, 71.9. Elijah Roberts, the edge defender, 71.7. Jonathan McGill, the safety, 71.4. Defensive tackle Anthony Booker Jr., 66.6. And Kevin Jennings with a rough one out there, 49.7 grade. Dalton, for you, the stats told the story in this game.
Okay, so I think, you mentioned Aller's grade there being in the 50s, kind of a whatever day, cold weather, missed some throws. Obviously wasn't terrible, but did enough, right, considering the way his defense was playing. And I think Tyler Warren, only had 33 yards in this game himself. So we usually think about, okay, if Tyler Warren only had 33 yards, they might have an issue. But the number is simple for me. Penn State, 209 rushing yards, and we're taking out sacks here, so just don't get it mixed up with whatever other networks have, whatever numbers. We take out the sacks, 209 rushing yards. 9 games this season where Penn State has rushed for at least 200 yards. 38.6 points per game, right where they sat in this game, although 2 touchdowns were on defense, but still it helps. 91.5 rushing grade. 5 games where they rushed for less than 200 yards. 25 points per game, 76.7 rushing grade. I think what we have now with Penn State is when Katron Allen and Nick Singleton are both fully healthy and they can split the carries pretty evenly the way that they want to, this is what now this Penn State offense looks like. And this wasn't even their best day, especially in the first half. But you go back to last week against Oregon, even the week before against Maryland, where they just absolutely teed off. Really good game against Oregon. I thought as the game went on and they got into the second half and they kept leaning on Allen and Singleton, it got a lot better. I think we're starting to see this Penn State offense round into the form that they want to. Still going to be some struggle at wide receiver. Eventually that's going to become an issue, whether it's this week against Boise or especially against either Georgia or Notre Dame in the semis. That's going to be an issue of can you beat man coverage, because both of those teams are going to go to it. But either way, you only have 2 occasions this year where one of these backs got at least 20 carries. The whole idea of this offense and how Andy Kotelnicki runs this run game, on top of all the creativity, is that both of them are always fresh, Allen and Singleton, right? Both of them, if you look at their most yards per carry individually in their best games this season, they have less than 15 carries. It's when they have 12 to 14 apiece, and then Aller gets thrown in and Warren gets thrown in. It used to be Prabula thrown in, but that's not a thing now. These 2 backs, when they're healthy, when they're rested, when they're not being overused, either one of them, this is what can happen in Penn State's running game. And I think eventually, as this game went on and SMU just kept making mistakes on offense, and obviously the 2 pick sixes and spotting a 14-0 lead helps on defense, this Penn State team with balance in the run game, because it was a stretch in the middle of the year, they didn't have balance like this. Singleton was banged up. Right? Allen it's not really a 25, 30 carry guy like that. Neither one of them is.
Yeah.
And then they're relying on Aller a little too much and the receivers a little too much. When this Penn State team has balance like this and they can lean into the run game first, they're extremely dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when Drew Aller, like I said, 56.3 grade was not his best stuff out there, and just never mattered because they had the running game they can rely on in this one as well. And you're right, that committee backfield for Penn State is dangerous because those guys are fresh the entire game. And obviously the defenses aren't fresh, having to tackle them the entire game. So that leads to a lot of success for Penn State. Really, the stat told story for me, Dalton, this defense dominated out there. And Kevin Jennings had a 7.3 passer rating when he was under pressure in this game. 7.3. For reference, if you spike the ball every single play, you get a 39.6 passer rating. His passer rating was 7.3 under pressure. It was awful. He had a 26.8 passing grade under pressure. And coming into the game, Dalton, Kevin Jennings was 7th among all quarterbacks in the nation with a 73 passing grade under pressure. Again, 26.8 in this game, almost a third of what he's done all season. Under pressure, 6 for 16, for 52 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, both of them returned for pick sixes, 0 big-time throws, 2 turnover-worthy plays as well. And the thing is, he was that bad under pressure, and he was under pressure the entire game. 47% of his dropbacks, he was under pressure in this game. Penn State had 21 points off those turnovers. SMU's allowed 31 points off turnovers all season. Penn State had 21 in this game. Kevin Jennings, and I love him. I think he's actually still a really good quarterback and still going to be one of the top quarterbacks in college football going into next season because he's already announced he's going back to SMU for another year. But in this game, he was in a blender because of Penn State's blitzes and their pass rush. He never once looked comfortable out there. I think a lot of people said the moment was too big for him. The stadium was going crazy. But that Penn State defense and those blitzes and the pressure they got on him, he couldn't do anything. And this is a quarterback who all year has been so good under pressure. But again, we want to remind you guys, play under pressure is so volatile. There's some games where a guy is amazing under pressure and other games like this one where he's absolutely terrible. You got the bad end for SMU in this game, and Kevin Jennings under pressure was just not nearly good enough for SMU to have a chance at winning this game.
47% obviously is unsustainable. You're not going to win many games when your quarterback's under pressure 47% of the time, unless your name is, Joe Burrow probably. Yeah. That's about it. Look, Jennings was spectacular all year. Coming into the game, he had the 6th best passing grade under pressure in the country. I mean, it's not like a thing other than the Duke game, right? That was really the only terrible game he played all year. This wasn't an issue, and he's really athletic, and he can make all the throws. But you could even see, even before the pick sixes, that first 4th and 1, when they called the play action and he rolled, and look, there was no issue with throwing the ball there. It worked. The play call worked.
Oh, yeah, it was a good play call.
Wide open, missed the throw.
Yeah.
And you could just feel between that play, because this game might look a whole lot.
A touchdown.
Yeah. It's going to look a whole lot different if on their first drive SMU goes down and it's 7-0.
Yeah,
right away, right? And then SMU, they got in the tempo. There were things in this game that worked for SMU on offense, but they couldn't finish drives. And look, any team that scores 2 defensive touchdowns, they're going to win.
Backbreaking.
They're going to win the ball game.
Yeah,
because their defense, honestly, in the first half, they played well. SMU. I think there was parts of this where SMU didn't play as bad as the score might indicate, but turnovers, especially turnovers that turn into touchdowns immediately, that kills you. Jennings can lead them back. He can absolutely lead them back to this spot next year. No, I still have no doubt about his ability or any of that, but I think you mentioned it. This moment in this environment against this defense, and Tom Allen did a fantastic job timing up the blitzes. I mean, honestly, when he saw that the blitz was working, we were stepping on the gas the whole way. And there was you get concerned sometimes with defensive coordinators. They get a big lead. They start sitting in too high. They're sitting back. They're just not giving up explosives. Tom Allen did the right thing. Keep blitzing till it doesn't work, and it honestly never not worked. And he just kept applying pressure, and Jennings, they kept caving under it. Even in the second half where there was moments when SMU got in the red zone, couldn't finish.
Yeah.
You have to finish drives, and you can't turn the football over. But I think just like Indiana, I think it's a great learning experience for SMU. They're going to run it back next year with a good team and a good quarterback, and we could very well see them here again.
He's very much a good quarterback. I mean, I would not be surprised when we do our top 10 quarterback rankings going into next year that he's in that list
Most
somewhere.
likely, yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. Just was a rough game. The worst game of his year, I'd probably say, for Kevin Jennings. Most impressive part of this Penn State win, Dalton.
Boy, oh boy. And I know there's all the blitzing and all the fun stuff Tom Allen did that we could break down all day, but it helps to have a number 11 in a Penn State uniform, doesn't it? Abdul Carter just continues to prove why he very well could be edge one in this draft class. 83.1 pass rush grade, 25% win rate, 5 pressures, a sack, drew a holding on another pressure, 92.9 true pass rush grade this season. Second in the country, I believe, behind Josiah Stewart, who's obviously been teeing off all year. Abdul Carter. He's going to go top 10 in this draft, right?
He could go top 5.
I mean,
I think top 10 is guaranteed at this point.
The speed, the spin move that he put, I felt so bad for Savion Byrd, SMU's left tackle.
It's a rough assignment.
That's a rough. That's maybe as tough assignment as there is in the country right now. Abdul Carter, as an elite player, this is as pure a pass rusher as we have in college football right now, and he's problem number 1, even beyond all the blitzing and the linebackers playing great and everything else that Penn State has on defense. Abdul Carter is a game wrecker, and he proved it again here, and I think he's going to continue to prove it for as far as Penn State goes in this.
And I'm so happy that Penn State learned their lesson with Micah Parsons. And listen, Micah Parsons at Penn State was the best linebacker in college football, but whenever he rushed the passer at Penn State, you always like, wait a minute, that's different. Like he should be doing that a lot more. And then not playing off-ball linebacker. Then he goes to the Dallas Cowboys, plays linebacker, I believe, for his rookie year. Then they move him to full-time edge defender, and he becomes like one of the best edge rushers in the entire NFL. Abdul Carter, I think you kind of saw the same thing. Again, he wore the same number as Micah Parsons, wore the famous number 11 at Penn State. And he was so good when he was blitzing as a linebacker that you kind of got the same vibes. You're like, okay, he's a really good linebacker, yeah, but man, when he rushes the passer, he's elite. And they said, you know what? We're not going to let him do it in the NFL. We're going to do it his last year of college. And they did it, and he's become the best edge rusher in college football. So, listen, the Micah Parsons comps are obviously very much out there. Like, it's very high praise for Abdul Carter, but you get some of the vibes, though.
It's hard to say they're unwarranted when he comes into playoff games and he plays like this. And I would expect, look, Boise, if they don't run the ball, they get in obvious passing situations next week. Number 11 is going to be an issue because I'm not sure where they have somebody, especially one-on-one, who could block him.
Absolutely, yeah. But my most impressive part, speaking of Micah Parsons, the position he played at Penn State is the Penn State linebacker. So Penn State brands themselves as linebacker U because you have obviously pass grades as LeVar Arrington, Jack Ham, Paul Posluszny, Micah Parsons, Navarro Bowman. The linebackers were the biggest reason for Penn State's dominance yesterday. All of Penn State's linebackers combined for an 86.5 grade against SMU. Both pick sixes were by linebackers in Dominic DeLuca and Tony Rojas. They had a 44.4 passer rating when targeted allowed, all the linebackers combined for Penn State. Dominic DeLuca also had a sack in this game. Kobe King led the way with a 76.6 run defense grade. It wasn't just like one star linebacker for Penn State that went off. The entire group effort led this defense. It's one of the best linebacker units that we have in college football, and all three of them between Rojas, DeLuca, and even Kobe King. He didn't have a pick six, but he still was very good out there. These Penn State linebackers were amazing yesterday, and I think it was the biggest reason why this defense dominated the way it did.
Absolutely. They play like that, and they could go a long way with this defense. And I'll tell you what, those same three guys, they're going to need them to be great in the next one, for sure. Look, SMU's got a great offense, and Brashard Smith is tough to tackle. Kevin Jennings can be tough to tackle, but you got Ashton Jeanty coming down the pipe. Yeah. If they play like this against Boise State, they could run them out of the building, honestly, but it's going to be a tougher task than this because it's not going to be, A, in your home environment in 20-degree weather, and B, that's one of the best college backs we've ever seen coming now. So I think if they do this again in the next game, it'll help a whole lot when it comes to getting into the semis.
And Ashton Jeanty is also eyeing the Barry Sanders rushing record as well. When he's 132 rushing yards to get it.
They're going to take some pride in not letting him do it.
They are going to do everything they can to not let him break that record.
That's going to be the battle within the battle.
I love that. That's going to be a great game in the Fiesta Bowl coming up on New Year's Eve. It'll actually be the first playoff of this first quarterfinal game that we get Penn State and Boise State playing on New Year's Eve. Hey, thanks for watching another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Please make sure you guys subscribe to the channel.
Also, subscribe to PFF Plus at subscribe.pff.com for all of the same data and grades that we use in our show, plus fantasy tools, betting tools, and our mock draft simulator.